Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream, our second live stream in a matter of days, and today we are here to discuss the current situation at our football club, the current situation regarding the drop in form, the reason that I believe personally we've dropped in form, and what some of the issues are currently at our football club. Because if you spend some of your time on Twitter as an Evertonian, I'm sure you'll have seen a lot of other Evertonians on there, giving it large in the last couple of weeks, aiming a lot at Marco Silva, saying that a lot of this is Marco Silva's fault and Marco Silva's doing. For me personally, I don't think Marco Silva's been perfect during his time at Everton. I think there has been issues with him, and there's definitely been issues that I would assume will be addressed at the end of the season with obviously the board and Marcel Brands, and they'll sit down with Marco Silva and they'll say, listen, certain things haven't gone the way we wanted to this season. I mean, we're currently sitting in February. Realistically, we were sitting at sort of mid-January and our season was pretty much over. Certainly after we lost that game to Millwall, that sort of solidified it. But I also want to say I don't just think that the issues lie with Marco Silva. Marco Silva's now our fourth manager in 18 months. I think we've had around 20 odd players in that time as well, and we're still not seeing any real vast improvement, anybody to really challenge the top six. You've got a set of players there that some weeks are looking okay, other weeks look absolutely awful. But at the with the current obviously situation with the board and with Everton CEO Denise Barrett-Baxendale really stamping down her expectations and the club's expectations in the next few years, aka being to be challenging in the Champions League and to be winning Premier League titles, considering that expectation and where we are now, it's going to be a really tough ask to get there in the next 2, 3, even 4 years with how we're going at the minute, if we could even get there. So there's other questions to be asked. I don't just think we need to look at Marco Silva and say it's your fault. I think there's other issues around the football club. We'll talk about potentially some of those in this video. And what's really important about today's stream is fan interaction, your guys' interaction in the live comments if you're here, and in the comments of the YouTube video as well. I want to know what you think about the football club at the minute. Do you solely believe that Marco Silva is to blame for the recent run in form? Do you solely think it's all his fault, or do you think there's other issues with the football club? Do you think if Marco Silva isn't the right man, then maybe we need to start questioning the higher up, maybe we need to start questioning the hierarchy? Well, if he's not the right man, that's now 4 managers in 18 months that Farhad Moshiri and Bill Kenwright have employed, and all 4 of them haven't been the right man. And I said this in yesterday's stream in the game review to the Watford game. Listen, there's other clubs in the Premier League who would sack a manager for not getting into that top 4 but challenging in the top 6. There's clubs that would sack a manager for, we've seen it before. Chelsea sacked Di Matteo after he won the Champions League. Benitez as well after winning the Europa League. Some clubs will sack managers for just not being the best of the best. At the minute, Everton aren't sacking managers for anything like that. We're sacking them because we're nearly getting ourselves into a relegation battle. I mean, the end of Martinez's reign, we were dangerously close. The end of Koeman's reign, we were dangerously close. And now, although I don't think we will go down, we are dangerously close to getting ourselves into a relegation battle, and that really isn't good enough. And it's such a contrast to the expectations of the board. Certainly coming out in the AGM and saying, listen, our expectation is to be challenging for Premier Leagues in 4 years. Okay, well, why are we now struggling to beat teams like Watford, Southampton, Leicester, and the likes? A couple of people have pointed it out in the live comments. I suppose I'll talk about it before we get into the stream. It is the new background. It's absolutely boss. Let me just tweet the stream out so everybody knows we are live and everybody can come and have a look at the new background with you as well. It's absolutely unbelievable. Joe does designs, as you all know, does all my graphics work, does all my designs work. I asked them to try and create me a background that looked a little bit like the one you're seeing now. He said, no problem, I'll get it done. You were here a week later and he's literally smashed it out the park. It's absolutely unbelievable. So a massive thank you to Joe. Again, if you don't follow Joe on Twitter or you don't subscribe to his YouTube channel, he's been in the streams a couple of times. It's Joe Does Graphics on Twitter. Go over there and give him a follow because he's absolutely unbelievable, and the new setup, the new screen is looking absolutely quality. Obviously, you see over there on the little pitch, we'll have the starting 11, the predicted starting 11s when the games are coming. We'll have a little news section there as well once I've figured out how to get the font in and that. I just didn't really have enough time tonight to mess about with it properly, but it's looking absolutely quality. So a massive thank you to Joe for that. Football Fan Fever says, alright mate, the studio has improved, thank you very much. Yeah, like we said, absolutely quality work by Joe. LCFC Boyer says, well, he waves hello to you too. Jamie says, setup looking good, mate. Thank you very much. I agree, it looks unbelievable. David says, looks like Sky Sports. Have you been talking to Jim? Unfortunately, I haven't. Maybe if I had been talking to Jim, I'd know a little bit more about the football club, because he seems to be absolutely best mates with Farhad Moshiri. Maybe that is an issue, the fact that Jim, White is coming out pretty much every transfer window, let's be honest, and pretending that Farhad Moshiri lives in a spare room while he's got his other mate on the phone going, yes, Jim, yes, we're signing some players, Jim. I don't particularly believe it personally myself, but Jim White does seem to have quite a close connection with Everton Football Club at the minute, and for me that's not good that somebody in the media like Jim White, a journalist, again nothing against him personally, but I don't really like the fact that he seems to have an inside sort of account on our football club. And let's be honest, if he does know Farhad Moshiri, he will have an inside account on our football club. I don't really know how he would know Farhad Moshiri, but apparently he claims to know him. EFC 1878 says, you got to remember that players like Sigurdsson and Keane have spent less than 2 seasons. Hang on, I've missed a comment there. Sorry about that. Jamie says, EFC 1878, you've got to remember that players like Sigurdsson and Keane have spent less than 2 seasons here and have gone through a lot of change in the last 2 years under 4 managers. Fuck Divock Origi. Yeah, that's very, very true. They haven't. That's why I think I would keep it with Marco Silva, because I don't think change specifically would help us at the minute. And like you said, it definitely wouldn't help the players by constantly changing manager and constantly changing philosophies. Jamie says, setup looking good, mate. Yeah, and Jamie says, can't be pinned on Silva. This is an issue that has been going on for a very long time. Exactly. And I've been saying this for a while, and this is one of my motivations to make this video, is that we are pretty much in the same situation as that we were sort of second Martinez season when it started to go downhill. We've had 4 managers since then, so it can't be all pinned on Silva. It just can't be. Paul says, the club's in a right mess at the moment. I blame Moshiri plus all the managers since Moyes. Need Rafa in the summer. Very interesting. Rafa Benitez being a manager linked with Everton for the last couple of years. Be interesting to hear what you guys think about that one. Personally, listen, Rafa Benitez is a serial winner, and if we could guarantee, and I know we can't, but if we can guarantee would win something if Rafa Benitez would come in, then I'd bring him in, because I don't really care about anybody else other than Everton Football Club, so his past really doesn't mean much to me. Jamie says, personally, if Silva gets the boot, Moyes should come back. Everton is in his DNA. Fair enough. Let's see what everybody thinks about that one. I'll leave that one to everyone. Football Fan Chat says, nice set, Cameron. Looks like Marks, when are you going to do Skype calls? Yes, I'm not too sure about Skype calls yet. I'm going to try and look at it and try and get it sorted out very, very soon. It's something that is on my list. I'll probably do it actually in the next couple of weeks while we don't have a game. It's something that I'm definitely going to look at. Jamie says the new graphics deserves 100 likes. Thank you very much, Jamie. By the way, if you're enjoying the stream so far, please do leave a like. It massively helps me out a lot. And please do subscribe as well if you haven't already. I think we're on 366 subscribers. Not that I'm counting. Definitely am. So hopefully we can get to that 400 mark as soon as possible. Kevin says, look what Ollie has done at Man United, same players that were there, so I say get rid of Silva and get someone that can get the best out of players. It's a very, very good point. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably is the best example at the minute of, a manager that's come in and taken over a team that really were in the dumps in terms of confidence, in terms of, how they were playing. Mourinho had that Manchester United team not playing very well. They were being beaten by, your average teams in your Premier League week in, week out. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes in and I think they go 12 games unbeaten, and they were beaten for the first time yesterday since he took over in mid-December, and that was against, one of the best teams in world football, realistically. So if we can get to a point where we're winning games of football consistently, and maybe we only lose the odd game against one of the top teams, then I don't think anyone could argue with that. Football Fan Fever says, your problem is that you're buying shit players, and also the players you all have individuals, no team chemistry. I do agree, to be honest. I do agree with the point of the chemistry point. I think one of the most important things to understand as us as Evertonians is that the previous regime, and I'm talking the Ronald Koeman and Steve Walsh regime, I'm not just going to all pin this on Ronald Koeman, because I think Steve Walsh has a massive part to play in this. What we intended to do with that regime is go out and buy individuals. We looked at Sigurdsson, we looked at Balassi, we looked at Davy Klaassen, and we thought, you know what? We're going to pick the best player out of okay teams. Villa at the time, Balassi was their best player, we'll pick him. Swansea at the time, Sigurdsson their best player. Williams, the captain, we'll pick them too. Klaassen, Ajax, okay, he was a UEFA Europa League finalist, but we'll pick him. And we didn't. Koeman and Steve Walsh didn't really think about how these players would develop as a team and how they would combine, chemistry-wise. They just didn't, and that's why we just had all of a sudden a load of new players smashed into a team together who didn't work at all. Davy Klaassen, really, really good footballer, but does not work in the Premier League, and that's why we had to sell him, because he, at the end of the day, he was absolutely class in the Dutch league, but he's just not good enough for the Premier League, which is very, really disappointing. But that's what we done, and you hear the pundits constantly saying Everton have spent 200 million, Everton have spent 300 million. Yeah, we have, and we spent it on a load of individual players rather than players that could come in and work as a team, and I think that is one of the issues as well. Where are we up to now? Where are we up to? John says, love the new setup, Cam, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much for that. Football Fan Chat says you should have your team lineups or news rolling along the screen where your Twitter is. Maybe it's something we can look at in the future. The Football Fan Chat says, would you take Benitez even though he has managed Liverpool? If Silva is sacked, he would be on the list, I would say, but I don't want Silva sacked at the minute because I don't think that would help anything. John says, Discord is better than Skype, Cam, it's easier to. I'm definitely going to look at Discord as well. Football Fan Fever, plugging his Discord there. Where are we up to? Football Fan Chat says, would you ever get in-stream changing backgrounds? I assume you're talking about interactive background. It's something that I definitely look at, but maybe we'll have to wait for the future for that. And David says, Benitez would have no joy with these players. It's a 50-50 team. Half have class, the others half don't. Work rate and setup is screwing us because of the players we have. I agree. Maybe, Rafa Benitez wouldn't take a second look at Everton. At the end of the day, I think Rafa Benitez is in a very secure situation at Newcastle because he knows the players are behind him and the fans are behind him, and the fans absolutely adore Rafa Benitez because they know, for all Newcastle's issues, for all the fact that they might get relegated, Rafa Benitez knows that won't come back on him, that the fans won't turn on him, that it won't really damage his regime, because as far as everybody is concerned, he hasn't been backed by Mike Ashley and he hasn't got the right tools to, take Newcastle further than where they are at the minute. He would have those tools with Everton. He would have that money and he would have that backing, so maybe he would come. At the end of the day, there would be a lot of Evertonians that would have to, swallow their words and maybe take a bit of a humble pie, because there will be a lot of Evertonians that would be quite frustrated because of his connection with Liverpool, and I understand that. I probably would be a little bit on it, but what you'd have to look at is Rafa Benitez as a manager and how he could improve Everton from a managerial point, and if he could take us to that next level. And if we're looking at Benitez as a better manager than Silva, then he could take us to that next level, yeah. But for me personally, I don't think sacking Marco Silva would... I don't think it would benefit us at the minute. I think Rafa Benitez would be a manager that would fans would need a lot of time to accept the fact that he would be coming in as manager, and at the minute we don't have a lot of time for acceptance. We don't have a lot of time for settling in. Same reasons why I wouldn't particularly want Mikel Arteta now, because he would be a manager that takes time to settle into his managerial role, that takes time to settle into the league, and we ain't got the time at the minute. Our situation needs somebody that's ready to come in, hit the ground running as soon as possible and get results and get the players working hard. I'm not saying Marco Silva cannot do that, but if we to bring a manager in, it's somebody that needs to be able to do that, not somebody that we're going to work with and we're going to allow to develop, because that's what we're doing with Marco Silva. So we may as well just keep Marco Silva on the go. Where are we now? Football Fan Chat says, name 3 managers that you want if Silva is sacked. If want, Simeone, Ancelotti, Zidane. But it ain't going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. Paul says, if we lose the Cardiff and the red shite, would you still support Silva? I think if we lose to Cardiff, it'll be really, really tough. And I think the majority, I think we're sort of on the weighing scale now of fans supporting Silva and fans, wanting them to be sacked. I think it will tip towards the latter if we're to be beaten by Cardiff. But at the end of the day, we need a plan in place. If Marco Silva is going to leave the football club, we need a plan in place. We need to know that whoever's coming in is going to be able to take us to that next step and going to be able to sort this out, because there is absolutely no point chopping and changing managers constantly if you don't know that the next manager to come in is going to be able to sort this situation out. I personally would persist with Silva, and I've said this for a long, long time, until at least the start of next season. I want to see how we line up at the start of next season, because that's when Marcel Brands' job comes into play as well. Now, arguably, Marcel Brands has had a little bit of an easy job up to now, because he's had the summer transfer window where we didn't kick a ball, before it ended in the Premier League. So obviously, you couldn't really blame him for that. And then January, he wasn't backed by, Farah Mashiri and Bill Kenwright. He's not really being blamed for, obviously, the results because that's on Marco Silva. So Marcel Brands has had a little bit of an easy ride, whereas if we go into the start of next season and we've still got these same players and they're still not performing well enough and they're still not showing any passion and fight, then fans might start to say, hang on, what's Brands' role in this as well? So I want to see what Marcel Brands can do in the summer. I want to see what Marco Silva can do in the summer. I want to see how we line up at the start of next season. And if we're still in this rut in September, October, then maybe he should go. But for me, I understand why fans want him to be sacked, and I understand that there may be good reasons for him to be sacked, but we need to then look at the future and look at, okay, if he's sacked, who comes in and what's the plan if he is sacked? We can't just sack him and then go, right, let's go from here, because at the minute we are dangerously close to being dragged into a relegation battle that we don't want to be, so we don't want to put even more pressure on ourselves by doing that. If you are enjoying this team so far, please do leave a like I've mentioned, and subscribe if you are new as well. 16 people currently in here, I believe. Absolutely fantastic support once again. Mike says, alright mate, how's it going? I'm doing good, Mike. I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good yourself. David says Simeone, Tuchel or Schalke's manager could possibly get us firing, though again, it'll take them time. Exactly, even the best managers in the world, it will take time at our football club at the minute, because at the end of the day, for me, our players, some of them just aren't good enough. So at the end of the day, you could have Zidane, you could have Simeone, you could have Thomas Tuchel, you could have anybody. If the players haven't got the quality, then it's going to be a really, really tough ask. And for me, that's where we need to kick ourselves in the arse in the summer, and that's when we start to need to bring better players in, and players that could actually breach into that top 6, potentially that top 4. Because at the minute, I'm not sure that we've got 11 players that'll play week in, week out that can do that. The football fan chat said, realistically, who do you want if Silva is sacked? Don't take the mick. I don't know, so I don't want Silva sacked. That's my honest answer. If he is sacked, then this is the whole point of doing this team. This is the whole point of talking about it in previous teams as well. I don't think there is a realistic answer per se that for me I sit there and go, you know what, that'll do. I'll have him. I don't think there is one, and that's why I'm persistent with Marco Silva at the moment. But I don't know. I really don't. Maybe Benitez, just to throw out there, but again, I don't know. I wouldn't particularly feel like Benitez would be able to do it, because obviously of the connection with Liverpool, and a lot of our fans wouldn't accept that. Stoll says, our fans just need to have a bit of patience. Klopp's first season, they conceded 27 goals from set pieces, and now they're the best at defending in Europe. Let Silva build his team. I agree with that one as well. Looking very similar to our first season in terms of conceding from set pieces. Yeah, I agree. Listen, at the end of the day, we sat here at the start of Marco Silva's reign and we said, listen, we need to give him time. We need to give him the resources. It's going to take a long time. Koeman and Steve Walsh have taken us back years, so it's going to take Silva more than a couple of years to get this sorted. And now we're sitting here 6 months going, results aren't good enough, sack him. I understand the reasons as to why, but I'm still on the board of, hang on, let's give him a little bit more time and let's actually see this out and see what we can do going into the start of next season for me. David says, no other choice now, Stoll, though he needs to throw Lookman in. It would have been nice to have our Benny. I do agree with that one. Lookman needs to have more starch. John says, Everton should back Silva. It took Sir Alex over 3 years to win anything in the league, and anything like that, the fans need to give Silva more time. To be honest, I do agree. I think I personally am still backing Silva. Again, I understand the reasons as to why fans mightn't be, and the reason as to why fans might be a little bit frustrated. But at the end of the day, if Everton come to me and say, listen, Marco Silva leaves tomorrow, we've got a plan in here, he comes in, he's a serial winner, we're going to give him this amount in the summer, he's going to take us to this level, I might go, you know what, fine. But I don't want people to go, oh, let's just sack Silva and work it from there, because then we seriously could get into a dangerous situation and we could go that way fast. So for me, I think we should keep with Silva and back him for the time being, but we'll go into talking about some other issues in just a minute. Andrew says, need to be if we don't beat Cardiff City. I think we'll beat Cardiff, but we need to show a little bit of fight and we need to show a little bit of passion. Football Fan says, would you take Moyes back? Stuart Pearce, I wouldn't take Stuart Pearce, no, and I probably wouldn't take Moyes back, no, I wouldn't go back to that. David says, I think the question should be, what players in what positions can gel this team? There is definitely potential. Exactly, and it'd be really, really interesting in the summer to see what type of players we bring in, what positions we decide to strengthen, and the players that we do bring in, because I do think it'll be a lot of, players that will fit into this team rather than stand out. Oh, look, he had a decent season once at a certain club. It'll be players that you might go, oh, I've never heard of him, but they'll come in and you go, oh, he's class him. He really fits this system. He really fits this team. And that's where Marcel Brands has his job to come in as well. So like I said, I don't just want to talk purely about Marco Silva, because I understand that, you know, there may be some issues with Marco Silva. Fans may have some problems with Silva. And to be fair, there is some issues with Silva. You know, his tactical naivety at times has been really questionable. His substitutions have been really questionable, and, you know, for me have been his biggest negative this season. Certainly we've seen that on show at Watford, the decision to bring Andre Gomez off and put Theo Walcott on. His other substitution decisions is inconsistency around changing the team constantly, is inconsistency around keeping certain players in the starting 11 that clearly aren't on good form, aka Gylfi Sigurdsson and Theo Walcott at the moment. His decision to, in some games, play a 5 at the back and then change it to a 4 at the back and then change it again. You know, the constant change doesn't help anybody. And the captaincy issue as well, which has been a massive one for me this season. The fact that pretty much every week there's a different captain on the pitch, and players are just coming into the team despite the fact that they mightn't necessarily be good enough to play week in, week out, and they're getting the armband because of the fact that they're the most experienced player or they've been here the longest. And, you know, that for me is a massive issue that Silva needs to just, you know, in a way, I don't want to say this, you know, I don't mean to disrespect him in any way, but in a way, just grow a pair of balls really and say, listen, Tom Davies is the captain, whether you like it or not, whether you've got Baines on the pitch, Coleman on the pitch, Jagielka on the pitch, Tom Davies is the captain because he's the future of this club. He's going to take us forward, so therefore he wears the armband. Please do leave a like if you have enjoyed the stream so far. So that for me, you know, there is issues with Marco Silva, there really, really is, but I don't think there's enough issues for us just to say it's all his fault, let's have him out, because for me, okay, let's pretend that Marco Silva leaves the football club tomorrow. It's deemed that he is the problem, that he is bringing the issues, and he is sacked tomorrow. Okay, then Marco Silva's sacked, regardless of who comes in, regardless of whether he should have been sacked. Let's forget about that for now. Marco Silva leaves the club tomorrow. Do we as fans then have a responsibility to look up to Bill Kenwright? I say look up as if they're in heaven or they're, you know, on some sort of pedestal. To go to Bill Kenwright or to, you know, ask the board and Farhad Moshiri, hang on, you've just sacked your 4th consecutive manager. Now we're talking Roberto Martinez, who was brought in and deemed not good enough after 2 or 3 years. You're talking Ronald Koeman, who was in the same situation. You're talking Sam Allardyce, who, okay, might have been brought in temporarily, but at the end of the day was brought in and then sacked. And you're talking now Marco Silva, who theoretically, let's say, I know he hasn't been and it probably won't be, but theoretically is being sacked. That means the Everton board have been incapable enough to employ 4 managers, knowing that our expectations and, you know, our aims are to be challenging, not just being in the Champions League, challenging for the Champions League, challenging for league titles. Effectively, we're looking at, and it kills me to say this, and I hate saying this, and this might get a bit of backlash, but we're looking at being sort of where the other idiots are across the park. We're looking at getting to that level as the Liverpool are. Okay, so if that's the expectation of our football club, do we not now have to look at the board and say, well, you've made 4 poor appointments there? And by the way, we're not talking poor appointments as in, you know, managers that have got us 6th or 7th but haven't really been good enough to breach us into that. We're talking about managers that are getting us, you know, we're sort of underneath the top 10 and sometimes being, you know, dragged into a sort of a relegation zone that we don't really want to be in, of course. Do we then need to look at them and say, maybe that's an issue? Are you incapable of bringing in a manager? Do we now need to give that responsibility to Marcel Brands and just say, there you go, it's your responsibility now, because the hierarchy clearly aren't very capable of bringing in a manager that's going to do, you know, get us to there. Duncan Ferguson is another person that I wanted to speak about in this live stream. It'll be interesting to hear your guys' comments and thoughts in the comment section. Get them in. Now, if you're watching this as a YouTube video afterwards as well, get them in the comments of the YouTube video. Duncan Ferguson, listen, I just wanted to go on record. I love Duncan Ferguson. I think he's an Everton legend. I love this passion. I love this fight. And that is definitely something that we need in this football club at the minute. We need a bit of passion, and we need a little bit of fight, and we need a little bit of urgency, and that is everything that he give. Didn't really agree with the fact that he used to go around there butting people and going out on the piss before the match, but hey ho. But Duncan Ferguson at the minute has been at the club now through 4 managers, I think. Again, not including David Unsworth in this conversation because I think it would be unfair to. But who is Duncan Ferguson's manager? Because technically, the backroom staff, aka the goalkeeper coach, defensive coach, attacking coach, the coaches, the people that sit on that bench, everybody that sits on that Everton bench of a match day should be managed by Marco Silva. They should have to answer to Marco Silva, or at the very least, Marcel Brands. It's very clear to me that Duncan Ferguson doesn't answer to the manager because he's been there through 4 managers. So to me, personally, I don't know this, and this is just me speculating, but I would believe Duncan Ferguson would answer to Bill Kenwright. He's got a really, really close relationship to him. Obviously, he thanked him massively at his testimonial. I would believe that Duncan Ferguson, as boss, his, next in line would be Bill Kenwright. It goes back to that wide, long issue in not just in football but in life of sentiment. Is there room for sentiment, especially in football? Is there room for sentiment at our football club? And I think we have to look at the likes of Duncan Ferguson and say, are you doing your job? And if you're not, regardless of if you're an Everton legend, regardless of if you show passion and heart and fight when you play for the football club, if you are not doing your job as a coach, should you be there? You're not obviously answering to Marco Silva. You're not obviously answering to Marcel Brands because you were there before and you'll be there after them. So you must be answering to the hierarchy. Is Bill Kenwright happy with Duncan Ferguson sitting on the bench every week, knowing that the performances we're watching, our strikers can barely score goals? They're not moving about. Cenk Tosun isn't making any room for himself. He's not creating chances. He's not scoring enough goals. As a team, we don't score enough goals. The defenders, balls into the box, we're constantly conceding. Nobody. Duncan Ferguson was massively known for his ability to get up and head the ball away and constantly be, in the air and heading the ball and being a massive presence. The one thing we are lacking, over anything at the minute in this team, is a massive presence. And that's not me going at Duncan Ferguson saying Duncan Ferguson should be sacked, he doesn't offer anything. That's me saying, let's determine what his role is at the football club. And if he's completing that role, fair enough. If he's not completing that role, why is he still here? Who does he answer to? Who's his boss? Because if Marco Silva's looking at the coaching staff saying, you haven't done, your job this week because to the defensive staff because we've conceded a ball into the box. You haven't done your job to the, goalkeeping staff because Jordan Pickford's made a howler. Can't really say anything to Duncan Ferguson because I'm not really his boss. That doesn't really sit well for me. It really doesn't sit well. And, I would assume that Duncan Ferguson has been brought in to help the attackers, to help the, the players winning the balls in the air. And at the minute, every ball that comes in the air, we're conceding from, or we're not winning. And the strikers, every time the ball goes into the box, strikers are very rarely winning headers. And if they are, they're not getting them on target. Calvert-Lewin had 2 against Watford and they were really poor headers. Cenk Tosun had a number of chances against Watford and blasted them. I say a number, 2 or 3, but blasted them over the bar. Is that an issue? Again, is that a wider issue that Marco Silva cannot solve? We can't sit here and say, it's Marco Silva's fault, it's Marco Silva's fault, it's Marco Silva's fault that the attackers aren't scoring enough goals, that the defenders aren't getting up and winning headers of balls into the box. When for all we know, Marco Silva might be saying, okay, I've come into this football club and it's well known now that Duncan Ferguson deals with the attackers and he helps the attackers become better. And I can't really say anything to him because I don't manage him. I'm not his boss. His boss is Bill Kenwright or Farhad Moshiri, so I can't really say anything to him. And then the attackers aren't scoring goals, and Silva's sitting there going, "Well, hang on. Realistically, what am I meant to do? And again, it's speculation. If Bill Kenwright is the boss of Duncan Ferguson, if Duncan Ferguson answers to Kenwright and Farhad Moshiri, then realistically, somebody like Marco Silva cannot tell him what to do. He cannot, organise him around unless there's permission there from Kenwright. And it really wouldn't surprise me if Kenwright had said to every new manager, his position stays and he stays there and let him get on with what he's doing, basically. Maybe that's an issue wider. Like I've said, I think it's definitely, we need to understand that. Okay, Marco Silva might have issues, and okay, we may need to look at Marco Silva and say, listen, you haven't particularly been fantastic this season. This season hasn't been good enough. We're, not sitting anywhere near where we need to be. But I think there's other issues as well that we need to look at. Let's dive back into the live comments now. Where were we up to? Ooh, David says, I think we've already read that one. What players in what positions can gel this team? There is definitely... I don't think we have actually. David says... what players in what positions can gel this team? There is definitely potential. There is, and I don't know what players, to be honest, in this team could could gel it. I really don't know. I think we definitely need to bring some new players in, some new personnel in, and some of the deadwood definitely needs to leave the club. Where are we? Where are we up to? Okay, Andrew says, I think we'll beat Cardiff, but don't think we'll win the derby. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you there, Andrew. Stoll says, would love Brandon Silva to come out and speak to the fans about their plans, would chill all the fans out. It would, a little bit of communication, and that's what we as fans, and that's what football fans in general crave, a little bit. There's such a emptiness, I think, of football clubs in this sort of present time. There's no connection between fans and football club. Realistically, every single club in the Premier League is a business, and it's run like a business, and there's no connection, there's no communication but directly between the football club and the fans. Yes, there may be a PR team, or there may be somebody writing an email saying, thank you for your concerns, we are working hard at Everton Football Club to make sure that the players, play every game and win every game, blah blah blah, generic, signed off, Dave, HR team, whatever. There's no connection of, the manager or the director of football, or even the likes of Ken Wright and Mashiri coming out and saying, listen, we're going to invite you all to a meeting here. And I know Everton do things like this well, usually, in terms of obviously the AGM, and they invited us out, but even that was very generic. In the next 4 or 5 years, we want to be winning titles. Yeah, okay. What about when there's issues? Where's people coming out in the club and saying, listen, where this, I know there's issues at the minute, but this is how we're going to work around them. I think every football club, I think, needs to be better at that. Where are we up to? Paul says, it's not the fact that we're losing games, it's the way we're losing them. Can't defend, can't attack, no passion, no fight or passion. That should be standard things of any manager should install into his players. Exactly, I agree with that one 100%. Football Panchet says, where do you think you'll finish in the table? I think 9th, I think 8th personally. Helbo says, yes, I totally agree with Paul Hewitt, cannot defend at all. Exactly, we cannot. Andrew says, I'm going for 2-1 Everton win against Cardiff. Let's hope. Helbo says, I would love to see Moyes back, give him a 2-year contract and see how it goes. And then Stoll says, Moyes is outdated now. Fair enough, differences of opinions. That's what it's all about. Get your opinions in the live comments if you are watching live. Football Fan says, okay, and maybe to those two. Paul says, Chelsea and City have sacked managers who've won the league in previous seasons. Exactly, and that's their sort of level, and that's their expectation. And I'm not saying that Everton should be at that expectation, because we're not at the level of City, we're not at the level of Chelsea. We don't have the players, we don't have the personnel, we definitely don't have the funds of them two clubs either. But that's just an example I was using, that other clubs have sacked managers for just being in the top 4, whereas we're sacking managers for not even being in the top 10 in certain seasons, and that's where the issue lies for me. Helpo says, Moyes did very well with little money. I believe he deserves a chance with substantial money in the transfer market. That's definitely one of the reasons as to why I think a lot of fans would say about David Moyes, but there has been a lot of examples of managers that have usually done well with money, then had money, usually done well without money, then had money, and it's gone down the pan. I'm not saying that would happen with David Moyes. Helpo says, if he comes back, even if he may be outdated, just personal opinion, and that's fair enough. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, of course. This is a Everton fan channel, so all opinions are welcome. David says, we aren't Chelsea or City. Who in the right man wants the Chelsea job? Who in their right man wants the Chelsea job? Who would want to follow Pep? We need to be looking at us, not others. I do agree with that one as well. Josh says, Silva in or out? I'm personally Silva in at the minute. Helper says, Cam Moses from Chelsea is hardly getting any game time. Would you take him as our new right back? I think he's out on loan at the minute, if I'm being honest, or I think they've sold him. And I did, yeah. John says, Helper, he plays in Turkey now. I seen him playing the other day for somebody that definitely wasn't Chelsea, I'll tell you that. Helper says, yes, my bad, he's on an 18-month loan. Again, he played for Liverpool, didn't he? So fans will probably be in the similar situation of, hang on, he's played for Liverpool. Andrew says, would you take Moyes back? I personally wouldn't, but if you would, that's your opinion. Let me know the reasons in the live comments. If you're watching this as a video afterwards, of course, let me know in the comments of the video as well. Jared says, I don't know how much authority Big Dunk has. Surely if the players are lazy and are showing no passion, this is a man would not hold back and lay into the players. After all, he lives and breathes Everton. And that's a massive point, and that's a really, really good point, and a point that I definitely wanted to bring up in this live team, because for me, on the outside, you look at somebody like Duncan Ferguson, that type of figure, and you think, okay, there's probably not many players in Everton's history who would be able to go toe-to-toe in terms of the passion, the fight, the energy, the aggression, the actual willingness to want to fight for this badge on the pitch as Duncan Ferguson did. And that's where I'm starting to have questions in my head, because it's really contrasting the fact that now you just see Duncan Ferguson sitting on the bench every week or at Finch Farm every week having a little smile and having a little laugh at the players. And don't get me wrong, I understand he shows a bit of passion when we score, he shows a bit of passion here and there, he shows a little bit of this, but for my understanding, if Duncan Ferguson was in the dressing room constantly screaming at these players, constantly saying, what are you doing? You've got no excuse to be walking around. Why are you being lazy? Get your socks dirty. Fight for this football club. Do you have any idea what it means to play for this football club? Then surely the players wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be just walking around. They wouldn't be showing any passion. They wouldn't be showing any fight. I really do worry, and this might get a little bit of backlash and people might dislike the video because of this, but I really do worry, and I'm not accusing him of this, but I'm saying maybe it's a possibility that maybe Duncan Ferguson is a little bit of a yes man, to the likes of Bill Kenwright, to the likes of Farhad Moshiri. Maybe he's just there to say, yeah, okay, I'll just follow, what you want to do. I'm in the job here, so I'll sit back and I'll enjoy the fact. When really on the outside, we all know the Duncan Ferguson that would be in players' faces, that would be screaming at them, that would be, getting involved, that would be saying, hang on, what are you doing here? This isn't good enough. Get yourself, sorted, sort yourself out, get, into it, screaming at players on the pitch. And that's why I wouldn't have Duncan Ferguson as the manager, because I think, I think he doesn't show enough of that, and I think if he would show enough of that passion on the bench that he did, definitely, even if he showed half of it that he showed as a player, then I don't think you'd get players walking around and just not really showing any passion or any fight. I think the majority of players would really be shook up and thinking, listen, we have to go out week in week out here because he's sitting on the bench watching us every single week and he ain't going to take whether we're playing under Silva, whether we're playing under Allardyce, whether we're playing under Martinez. Tell you what, Duncan Ferguson's definitely not going to take us walking around, so that's the question for me, a massive question. David says, what does Fergie do in the changing room? He used to blast players when they weren't performing. What is Jimmy saying to the players? If anything these days, what about Unzi, Ebrel, Jeffers? Maybe, exactly. I think football has changed massively since the days of Sir Alex Ferguson, and egos have massively changed. And could you imagine Duncan Ferguson going into a changing room now and screaming at the likes of a Paul Pogba after the game? People will probably, Paul Pogba will probably listen to Alex Ferguson, but he'd probably then go home and do a little stupid dance in his mirror and then go, I'm not really asked as to what that old man has to say. I'm on 400 grand a week. I'm great. And football has changed in that way. There's a lot of egos now, and I think there's a lot of disrespect, and I think there's a lot of a lack of respect for managers, and that's why you see so many managers getting sacked, and that's why you see the old saying of he's lost the dressing room or the players aren't playing for him, and that's why I'm not particularly a fan of fans backing players that do that to get a manager sacked, because I think, listen, if you've got a man telling you in a dressing room, pack your ideas up and play your arse out for this football club that pays you, then you should be at the end of the day. Andrew says, I wouldn't know, mate. I would go for a proven winner who has won the big trophies like a Mourinho, Conte, Simeone. We wouldn't get them. No harm asking if they'd be interested in managers. Exactly, there's no harm asking at all. And there's age-old question about players as well. Going back, there was no harm asking Diego Costa if he wanted to join Everton, and all rumours suggested that a year ago, just before we signed Nikola Vlasic, it was, I think, Diego Costa was pretty much signing for Everton, to the point where Nikola Vlasic was told he couldn't have the number 19 shirt, I think it was, or the number 18 shirt, because it was saved for Diego Costa, basically. He then didn't come. There's no harm asking, there's no harm saying to Simeone, if the situation with Silva doesn't work, would you be interested in coming and managing Everton? What's the worst that can happen? He starts laughing down the phone, you put the phone down. Maybe you'll say, you know what, I'd like to manage in the Premier League. I don't necessarily want to take over one of the big teams. I'd like to take over a team that could get there with potential, and if we got there, people would say, wow, you've done a brilliant job, maybe I'd come. Maybe that's, there's definitely no harm in asking, of course. David says, Fergie told Koeman, Schneiderlin and Morales all to do one. I don't know if you're talking about Duncan Ferguson there. Again, I don't know whether I can't confirm that or not, but maybe he did. Kevin says, I think as fans we need to realise that you can't just spend 250 million and think we're going to challenge top 6, top 4. This is a long project. Yes, we are playing rotten, but this is a long road ahead. Exactly, it really is. And you have to really look at the 200 million that we've spent. I mean, just on the surface here, you can say 50 on Sigurdsson, 30 on Richarlison, so there's 80 straight away. 30 on Pickford, so there's 110. 30 on Mina, 140. I'm just thinking of, the biggest ones here realistically. So there's 140 million on 4-5 players there that, are okay, are performing okay at the minute, not fantastically well. So I think And a lot of them players have come from previous reigns, not Marco Silva's reign. So it is important that we, when we're thinking about Marco Silva and when we're considering, is he the right man for the job, we look at the players that aren't actually from, he didn't actually sign, and we think, you know what, maybe we do need to give this guy a chance. Maybe we do need to give him another couple of transfer windows, because that realistically, that's what we all said. Realistically, that's what we all said when he come in. We said, you know what, he needs about 2 or 3 transfer windows to sort this out, because at the minute, it's a mess. Koeman's left it in a mess. Steve Walsh has left it in a mess. We really need a good few transfer windows to sort this out. So let's give him the time to sort it out. Now we're sitting here saying, sack him. The performances aren't good enough. And yes, the performances haven't been good enough. I understand that, and a lot of you guys understand that as well. But I think it's important to understand that, okay, the performances mightn't have been good enough, but is there a plan in place if Marco Silva leaves? If there is, let's hear it. Let's see what it is. If there's not, then it's a massive risk to sack Marco Silva. And at the minute, I personally would like to see Marco Silva stay, see where we are at the start of next season, and see how we can improve this squad in the summer. See what Marcel Brands can do in the summer. See if we've still got the likes of your Schneidlins, your Morales at the football club, the Deadwood that isn't really going to get a game, and see what type of players come in the summer. And, realistically, if Farhad Moshiri backs Marco Silva and says, you know what, here's the funds that you need to, build your squad around what the philosophy you need to play. And I think it starts majorly at the minute as players that can play zonally, because it's very clear that that's how Marco Silva wants to play, but it's also very clear that these players cannot play that. Hellboat says Conte is available, I would take him all day long. He's got an issue with defending as well. I think Antonio Conte has a massive issue with being able to defend, and that's something that we need to really nail down. At the minute, Hellboat also says a well-respected manager will be able to bring top-tier players in, not overpriced second-tier players. Fair enough, and at the end of the day, Conte's won a Premier League and he's won trophies in the past, and he's managed some of the biggest clubs in the world. So I don't think any Evertonian would turn their head at Antonio Conte. But at the minute, would he come to Everton realistically? I don't know, and that's a question that we, I suppose, would have to ask if we wanted to look to bring him in. But that's exactly the point that I wanted to make for this stream, is that it's not all on Marco Silva. It's not all Marco Silva's fault. There's other issues, and at the end of the day, listen, there's 2 ways this can go realistically. Marco Silva sorts this mess out and we go forward and there's no discussion. We fix the issues with the football club and, all's good. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Or Marco Silva doesn't sort it out and he has to leave the football club. I then think we then have to start looking at Farhad Moshiri. We have to start looking at Bill Kenwright, and we have to start saying, okay, he's the 4th manager you've employed now that isn't good enough for the job, that can't do the job properly, cannot take us to that level that you want us to be at. So how are you recruiting? What are you doing? Because this isn't good enough. And that's where we need to look at. We need to look at, other members of the board, other staff in the club, and say, maybe you're not helping. Maybe, you're not bringing, what we need to the football club, because we've had 4 managers now and 3 of them haven't worked. And, a lot of fans are saying the 4th one isn't working either. So maybe it's time we start to look at other positions in the club and say, well, maybe you're not working actually. Maybe you're not doing your job properly. I think if Marco Silva is to leave the club, Marcel Brands has to have an input on the next manager. He has to have an input on who comes in for me, and that'll be key. And please do leave the stream a like if you have enjoyed so far. Subscribe if you are new as well, of course. Where were we up to? Let me see. Hellbo says Jurgen Klopp didn't do so well in the first season. Exactly, he didn't. He come 8th in the first season. So, it's took Jurgen Klopp 4 seasons and a lot of money to build that Liverpool squad, and a lot of patience as well. And they've still not won anything. So, that's a really, really good example. David says, I can confirm it, Cam Dunk sent Morales and Sadlin home from training and then spent 3 months with Hornby in the under-23s after he told Koeman he didn't care about the club. Maybe he did, fair enough, and that is the type of passion that you want to show. That, we want to see Duncan Ferguson really, showing he cares for these fans, and because we know he cares for the fans, we know he cares for the football club. At the end of the day, there's no hard in that. I'm not denying that, and I'm not saying he doesn't. What I'm saying is that, he needs to show that passion a little bit more on the bench for me. And, if his role is, if he has got that type of authority as to say, to be able to tell managers, listen, you're not doing your job properly, because, clearly he has, Dave, if he's told Koeman it, and he hasn't had any backlash from it, obviously, then maybe he should tell Silva, listen, or maybe he should go into the dressing room and say to the players, why aren't you working hard enough? Get yourself stuck in. Let's have a go, boys. Get yourself involved, because we all know that Duncan Ferguson could scare the absolute shite out of you. And if I was sitting in that dressing room at half time and I hadn't put a decent performance in, and he was in there screaming his head off saying, get your ass in gear, go out there and at least show it 100%, I'd be going out there showing it 100%. I wouldn't be walking around the football pitch. Andrew says the players are awful, still too much dead blood that needs shipping out. There is a lot of dead blood that needs shipping out, I do agree. Helper says, so I think we should wait and see until next December if we are 5th or 15th in the table. So I'm still Silva in, assuming we are still mid-table. I'm Silva in at the minute, and I want to see how we line up at the start of the next season. I've said that for a few weeks now. I want to see what this team looks like come August. And come the first game of next season, and see what type of players we've brought in and what type of players we've managed to ship out. Andrew says, who would you sell in the summer transfer window? I think the likes of Schneiderlin has to go. Morales, I think everybody on loan for me needs to leave, other than the lads that have gone on loan in January, and Nikola Vlasic I'd probably give another go. Everybody else on loan should leave the club permanently. I think probably Morgan Schneiderlin has to go. Balassi, obviously, who has now gone back out on loan in January, has to leave. I don't know, maybe a Tossin, if he's not performing well enough, needs to be sold and see what profit we can get. I really don't know, but there's a lot of players that are taking up a massive place on this squad, and are costing us a lot of money a week that aren't doing the job well enough. Kevin says, can I hear the rumour that the Man City owners wanted to put cash into Everton, but Bill told them no? Have you heard that? Yes. That's a very well-known rumour years and years ago, before they took over Manchester City. Again, it's a rumour at the minute. I don't know whether it was completely confirmed, but it pretty much was confirmed that they wanted to, put money into Everton Football Club, and for whatever reason it didn't help, because we were in a situation that they liked the look of. We were a club that, they thought they could do bits with, but we ended up saying no, and then they thought, okay, well maybe we'll go to Manchester City, and look how that's turned out now, of course, with them. Mitchell says, think since he went bankrupt, his power at Everton has just diminished. Can't be telling players who earn 100k a week nothing. IMO. Fair enough. Helper says, at Kevin, yes, I read that a couple of years back they were picking a team to invest in between Everton and Man City, so I think it's true. Yes, it was. That I think that is pretty much a fact, to be honest. They were looking at Everton Football Club, and they liked the idea of us. They liked, the fact that we had such a unique stadium, such an old stadium. They liked the fact that, we had the foundations there, we had a decent manager in at the time, but for whatever reason it didn't work, and they chose Manchester City, and now Manchester City are, the biggest club and the best football club in England, and we're struggling to beat the likes of Watford and Southampton, and literally the players aren't showing anything at the minute, and that in itself is a massive issue. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. A massive thank you to everybody for getting involved in the live comments, as per usual. Another absolutely unbelievable stream. If you have enjoyed the stream so far, please do leave a like. Subscribe if you are new to the channel as well. It really does mean a lot to me. If you're watching this as a YouTube video afterwards, then leave your comments in the comment section down below. What do you believe the issues are at Everton Football Club? Do you think it's all on Marco Silva and he just needs to go and we need to start fresh? Or do you agree with me? Do you think if Marco Silva is to go, then maybe we have to look at the the hierarchy, and we have to say, well, hang on, that's 4 managers now that haven't been good enough. How are you employing? What are you actually doing in terms of employing a new manager? Because the people you've employed so far just haven't been good enough. What do you think about the Duncan Ferguson situation? Do you think that maybe at the minute he's not doing enough of his role? Do you think that he maybe is a little bit invincible at the moment? Let me know your thoughts, of course, in the comment section. I will be back live on Friday at 6:15. I haven't quite decided the topic as of yet, but I definitely will have by Friday. So don't forget to join us again at 6:15 on Friday. We will talk a little bit more about Everton Football Club. We've got no football this weekend, so it will be a chilled stream. We'll get in here and we'll have some nice chilled chats, and we'll just have conversation, and we won't have to worry about the inevitability of being beaten on a Saturday by some average team. But anyway, that is going to do it from me. A massive thank you to everybody in the live comments, as per usual, for all of your inputs and all of your opinions as well. Listen, I've said this time and time again, this is an Everton fan channel. It's not me. It's not, just here's my opinion, agree with it or disagree with it. I'm just giving you my thoughts on the football club. You can either agree, you can disagree. Everybody's opinion matters. If you want, If you want David Moyes to come back in, that's 100% fair enough. That's opinion. If you want Marco Silva sacked, 100% fair enough. If you think, okay, Marco Silva should maybe stay and let's see where we are at the start of next season, that's where I'm at. Then, 100% is opinion. If you think, no, let's go for someone higher, again, your opinion matters, of course, as does everybody else's. So a massive thank you to everybody in the live comments. Once again, a massive thanks to everybody watching as a YouTube video afterwards. And don't forget to leave your comments in the YouTube comments. Just before we go, I want to say a big thank you to Joe Does Designs as well for the new setup. It's looking absolutely unbelievable. It'll be looking even better once we've got some news in that section there, and we've got the team selection up there as well. So I'll try and sort that out, obviously, by the time we play Cardiff, and the news section by Friday as well. But anyway, that is going to do it from me. A massive thank you to everybody for getting involved. Andrew says, I could see Mark van Bommel as Everton manager, knows Brands well. They were at PSV. Maybe, who knows? Does definitely know Marcel Brands very well, that is for sure. Kevin says, top lad Cam, thank you very much. And David says, the stadium, mate, is that a topic you'd like me to speak about on Friday? Definitely something we can talk about if you would like me to. It's a massive topic at the minute, and obviously the numbers for the public consultation were released yesterday, and we spoke a little bit about them in yesterday's stream as well. But definitely could do a live stream on the stadium on Friday. So I tell you what, I'll do that one. So join us at 6:15 on Friday night, where we'll be talking about the new stadium, the figures from the consultation, and obviously what this means for Everton Football Club. And we'll be bringing a little bit of positivity into a time at the minute which really is a little bit too negative for my liking. But anyway, please do leave a like rating if you have enjoyed the stream. Shabba says hello and goodbye, Cam. Sorry, Shabba, if you have missed it. I do apologise. But anyway, thank you very much. Hopefully, I'll catch you next time. But that is going to do it from me. A massive thank you for everybody for getting involved. As per usual, it's really important that we discuss these type of issues, and it's really important that we all have a say on the situations as well. But anyway, that is going to do it from me today. Please do join me again on Friday at 6:15 to talk about the stadium. If you have enjoyed, like I said, please do leave a like and subscribe if you are new. But that's going to do it from me. A massive thank you again, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.